My friends, I am completely outraged. I am like livid right now. I had to go live on YouTube. I had to let my venting come out. Matthew, you're going to take the brunt of that venting because the topic today, it is 12 o'clock a.m. on January 20th, and I'm up here and I'm wanting to do this topic. The topic is surround music, immersive surround music for streaming. We were promised we were going to have all this streaming of surround sound music. Then you and I kind of dug a little deeper, and we're finding that's not really the case. So why don't we talk about Dolby Atmos music, Sony Audio Reality 360, or whatever they're calling it, and what does that mean in terms of streaming it to your home theater in a discrete format? What are we going to be getting, at least in the immediate future?
We're going to be getting headphones and little tiny speakers that you somehow are going to get 360 immersive surround sound from a single location. I mean, it's not what we were promised.
So in other words, when you're seeing all these advertisements for Dolby surround music or Dolby Atmos music, right now as it stands on January 20th, 2020, it's not discrete streaming. It's literally going through a pair of headphones, whether you're on Tidal or you're on Amazon HD. And I even think Qobuz, does Qobuz support?
Not yet. They're working
okay.
on it, I hope, but not yet.
So right now, all you guys could do is do it on a pair of headphones, like a pair of these Samsung earbuds, or you could do it on the Amazon 360 speaker. It's a little dinky speaker with tweeters all around it. That's how you're getting surround sound streaming. They're making all this hype about that, rather than you getting to use your 7.1.4 system streaming Tidal discreetly to all your speakers. Am I understanding this correctly?
That's what we've been finding. So they started advertising this. I was texting you, emailing you. I said, we got to cover this. This is cool. This is like, maybe this means surround music will actually start to go mainstream if we start to see it in streaming services like this. And those news releases, those media releases were really vague.
Yes.
The Amazon one kept saying you can enjoy our new Dolby Atmos music streams on our brand new Amazon Studio speaker. I just assumed when I read that they meant their studio speaker and my surround home theater system, but that is not what they meant. It meant that they were exclusively providing that content through that speaker. And then Tidal said, well, we're going to get into this game. We're actually going to offer Sony 360 reality audio, and we're going to offer Dolby Atmos. And I thought, this is cool. And then I noticed it said on your mobile device through headphones.
Yes. There's always a little caveat.
Yeah. So I started contacting them and saying, hey, what's the deal here? And I was getting very vague responses. And then I started talking to other folks in the industry, and they said, yeah, pretty much that's it. They decided they wanted to start with headphones. Amazon's the closest to doing anything with speakers, and it's just their specific unique speaker, which really is not, you complain about Bouncy House. That's Bouncy House to an extreme.
Yeah. And let me clarify this, because I know there's going to be some people out there that are going to be misunderstanding what we're saying here, and they're going to think we're anti-Atmos or anti-surround. I am not anti-Atmos or anti-surround. In fact, I have Roger Waters' The Wall in Atmos on Blu-ray. I've had this for over a year. I love this disc. The sound quality is awesome. The musical content is awesome if you're a Pink Floyd fan. And I have a ton of Blu-rays in 5.1 DTS HD from Steven Wilson, for example. All of his music on Porcupine Tree and his solo stuff is in 5.1 DTS HD. And then I use the Dolby Up mixer to do 7.1.4. And the results are spectacular, my friends.
Yeah, I think both of us really like surround music when done correctly. And so the excitement, one of the neat things about streaming services is that it puts at your fingertips so much more music than you would typically have. You have a couple of discs. I've got, maybe a total at most of 100 discs that are in surround sound that I've taken years to collect. And, what I'd really like is to have the thousands and thousands or really millions of tracks at my fingertips that I have with streaming, but in surround sound. And I know that wasn't going to happen right away. But anything that I would get would have been, an upgrade from where I'm at right now. So to find out that isn't what we're getting, we're actually getting basically some sort of a immersive effect through our phones and the headphones was really disappointing. And then you and I actually checked out Sony 360 Reality together. We were both listening to it and texting each other, and I think we'll talk about this. We thought it worked to some extent, but it wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't.
It didn't blow me off my chair. It didn't make me feel immersed. But why don't we go over the little slideshow presentation that you created here, since you put the time into doing a nice thing here. Let me share the screen. So here we are from beginning. Okay.
So yeah, immersive surround music. Has its time finally come? I mean, I think you and I were hoping that, yes, its time has come. We will start to get it. I mean, whether people like it or not, these streaming services are so popular that if they do go into surround music, it will become mainstream. So that was the hope.
And for years I have a ton of ISO SACD files on
Mm-hmm.
a 3 terabyte hard drive, and my fantasy was to be able to stream that through Ethernet to all my audio systems in my multi-channel 5.1. Never been able to do that. I even asked Oppo at the time if it was even possible, and this there's just too many copy guards or whatever that's preventing us from doing multi-channel music streaming like that. So
Yeah.
I was hoping that this would be
The
next evolution to do that.
Yeah. So, and then this slide is getting into what that evolution was. So there has been a lot of false starts, if you will, on multi-channel music. We had DVD audio and SACD that came out. They gained some popularity, but they really never supplanted CDs. I think in many ways we sort of skipped over the disc format and went straight into basically media files on our computers and eventually streaming. And that's why that kind of became what I was hoping to be the next big thing. And so Dolby, of course, has developed Dolby Atmos. They touted it as a format that would be great with surround music, surround mixing. And so they started offering that up. But as you know, not a lot of comment time that was related. To be honest, kind of out of nowhere, Sony basically said, hey, we've got our own thing called 360 Reality Audio. It conceptually sounds very similar to all of the other object-based surround systems out there. But, Sony owns quite a bit of the music in the industry. They have a lot of clout. So I thought, there's no reason why they can't do it and do it well. So maybe this will be good. And they're trying to put, I think, their whole catalog basically out in 360 Reality Audio in not too much time. So that sounded cool. This all sounded like a promising change in the industry.
Here's why I think it's not going to be a reality in terms of coming into our home theaters anytime soon, is if you look at all the next generation receivers and processors that are coming out, not one of them are saying that they're licensed in Sony 360 Reality Audio. So if they're putting all this effort into doing surround music and it's not going to be a codec and an AV processor and an AV receiver, then you know that this is targeting mobile and headphones, at least for now.
Right. Yes, I agree with you on that. So you can go to the next slide if you want. And so, as we started to dig into this to find out what was really going on, how can we access this surround music? What we found out was basically you've got that studio speaker you see in the image for the slide and our phones. And that's really it. That's where we're through these streaming services. That's all they're giving us.
And that bothers me that the Dolby Atmos logo lights up on a phone like that when it's really not discrete audio. To me, that just liquidates the brand. And if anybody that's never experienced a true immersive surround format like Atmos in a real environment, a 7.1.4 environment or 5.1.2, whatever, a discrete format, when they look at this, not knowing what Atmos is, they're going to look at that and say, oh, it's no big deal. It's just another logo. It really, in my opinion, dumbs down what Atmos is all about.
Yeah, although I think you've seen probably Dolby Atmos. Dolby has been licensing versions of that technology for tablets and laptops and all sorts of things that don't really have any sort of, they don't seem to fit the criteria. So I don't know what they're licensing.
Well, I'm hoping one day we'll see him on breakfast cereal because I kept predicting that since it came out. And
yeah.
I want to be the first to take a scoop of that.
All right, so Sony 360 Reality Audio. Some of you who have not heard of this technology may be wondering what it is and how it compares to something like Dolby Atmos, which is more readily known. And I'm realizing now that these are hard to read, these slides, but it's object-based spatial audio technology. Same thing as Dolby Atmos in that sense. And they provide tools for engineers to use so that they can place objects anywhere within a 360-degree spherical space. Sony offers a Headphone Connect app. So with the existing Sony 360 Reality Audio systems, like what's available through Tidal, you can get this app, and as long as you have certain select pairs of their headphones, you can take a picture of your ear and it can modify the HRTF curve that it's using and provide a more immersive experience, which is actually a neat idea because while it's not as good as properly scanning the ear, you can get a pretty good guess at what the HRTF should be when you get a picture of the ear.
When
Now,
you say HRTF, you mean head related transfer function.
thank you. Yes, the head related transfer function. And that, for those who don't know, you can't get surround sound from two speakers in front of you, but you can get surround sound from two speakers on your ears. And the reason for that is that the way that we recognize sounds coming from all around us is related to a bunch of things in how we hear. Some of them are more related to the differences in amplitude or loudness, and the differences in timing in the sound between the left and the right ear. Two speakers can do that too. But then in terms of being able to hear it as coming from in front of us, behind us, or above us, the head related transfer function plays a big role in that. And so as long as you understand that, you can play with that with something like headphones and give you the sense of a actual surround experience.
Gotcha.
So Gene, you and I have played with this. We tried it and we were messaging each other. And you probably remember when I messaged you, I said, I don't want to tell you what I think. I just want you to listen and I'm curious what you think.
Yeah.
And it was because when I listened, I was pretty let down. I was expecting... I wasn't expecting to love it. You know, I thought there was a very good chance that I would thought it sounded gimmicky, you know, didn't really enhance the music, but I thought at least if nothing else, it should sound immersive. And then when I played it, I thought it doesn't really sound immersive at all. Like I'm not getting any spatial cues. So I thought, well, it must be the headphones I'm using. I'll try something else. So I grabbed another pair. Didn't sound any better. Maybe it's my device. I'll try another device. So I went from an Apple device to a Android device. That didn't make a difference. Tried another pair of headphones. That didn't make a difference. And I finally decided it's got to be the tech. Maybe it's the speakers or the music I'm listening to. I'll try more music. And you and I were just sending tracks to each other to try. And I think in the end, we heard a difference. There were some that sounded a little more immersive, but I don't think either of us ever thought it was anything special.
What I thought, if I remember correctly, it's been a few weeks. I thought the bass levels changed too. When we listened to a track from Billy Joel that was in 360 versus the normal track, I felt like the bass level shifted.
Yeah. I think that we thought, yes, I thought the tonal balance changed, and I think there were a few other aspects of the sound beyond the bass, maybe in the mid and treble, that I thought kind of became more forward, but I wouldn't call that immersive.
It definitely was not the best immersive experience I've heard on headphones. I've heard demos at trade shows. Yamaha, for example, did one where they can map your surround system. And they never released this as a product, but they literally would map your surround system and then put it into a headphone space. And that sounded really impressive. So I don't know when they're going to release something like that, but that was more immersive to me and more enjoyable to me than what I heard so far with the Sony 360 on Tidal.
Yeah, I've used some headphone systems before that provided a kind of immersive experience that was unreal. It was as good or better than the best surround systems I'd ever heard. And so part of me was hoping that there was a chance for this, because to be honest, as much as I want discrete surround for my home theater, if I could have that on the go through headphones, I'd be okay. That would be nice too. I'd be okay with that. But that isn't what we got.
You would almost think, since Sony is pioneering this and they're putting a lot of effort into the music aspect, production aspect, they would come out with a specific headphone that maybe has a multi-driver array, and they could take advantage of the phase relationship differences of the drivers to kind of enhance this. I would think they would have a certain line of headphones that would maybe be 360 reality audio ready.
Yeah, that may happen. I mean, it would be good marketing. I mean, I'd be skeptical at this point. I'd want to hear it myself, but yeah, I think they definitely have the engineering chops. So we can go on though. I know we're kind of talking about the same things. So Dolby Atmos music, for those who know what Dolby Atmos is but doesn't know what Dolby Atmos music is, it's the same thing. So the key difference really is in the engineering tools themselves. They can provide tools to the person who's basically mastering the music to allow them to do the same thing as with Sony 360 reality, which is to place any kind of musical object anywhere. Now they say within this hemisphere of sound instead of this 360 sphere, and that's actually probably more accurate for both of them. But you know, Dolby Atmos music has been around longer than Sony 360 reality, and we had kind of hoped, I think, that we would see more content by now. I know you've got some discs you were showing off. I have, I think, 2 maybe, and then I have a bunch of demo content that Dolby sent me. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot out there. I mean, maybe a couple dozen, maybe a few hundred, and I just don't know about it. Definitely not thousands.
I know in the press release when the Dolby Atmos music was announced, they talked about Abbey Road from the Beatles being in Atmos music on Blu-ray. So the only thing I could think of is it's a Blu-ray disc that doesn't have video content. It just has Atmos surround. I mean, I don't have that disc, but personally, if I'm going to do Atmos, I really like having a concert. That's why I'm a fan of like the Roger Waters' The Wall concert, because that's in Atmos and it has high def video as well. And it's like $16 on Amazon. It's worth it.
Yeah, so when I started checking out what was available, what I was finding was there actually is a lot of stuff on Tidal and on Amazon for the Atmos music that doesn't appear to be available on Blu-ray, or at least I couldn't find it. So it seems like this is promising. It's just, I don't think that the headphone surround effect that we're getting is the 360 immersive sound we were promised. You know, this is not surround music. This isn't what I thought we were getting.
It's interesting too because the Atmos comes up on Tidal on your phone, but it doesn't come up when you're trying to stream it through your home theater if you're running Tidal on whatever device. Yeah,
it won't work. It only works on the device, on your mobile device. All right, so we can go on to the next one though and get a little bit more into this. So what we really want is this discrete immersive surround sound with speakers. You know, that I think, Gene, you agree, but the experience you get in a surround system is different in the same way that the experience you get when listening to stereo versus headphones is dramatically different. And while some people love headphones, we know that's actually the more dominant way people are listening to music these days. You and I at least like to listen in our rooms through our speakers because the experience we get, the way that it presents the soundstage is, for us at least, a more realistic experience. And with surround sound, even more realistic. So that's what I'm waiting for, at least. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest differentiator to me is having it in your home like this in this picture is you could share it with other people, and the bass reproduction is still way better in a discrete speaker system than you're getting out of a headphone. You just don't get the tactile response in a headphone that you do with subwoofers in a room. So,
yep, very true. So I think this is going to be a recap of stuff we covered in the last presentation, and it's, do we even need immersive surround music? You know, a lot of people are very happy with 2-channel. And the answer is a complicated yes, we do, meaning it's better, but it's not that 2-channel is bad. 2-channel still provides most of the enjoyment that we are expecting out of music. It can reproduce most of what's there, but there are things that it can't do. And that's what the surround or multi-channel can bring to the table. And that's why I am saying I'm waiting for this to happen, because there's a lot of potential here. So we need to talk about this idea though. So what can 2-channel do? So it can reproduce the melody, the harmony, timbre, tempo, and certain aspects of reverberation or reverb. So that's for most people, that's most of how they enjoy music. That's really all it's why headphones are fine for many people, because they are really getting most of the experience out of that. So what does 2-channel not do? That's the next slide. So 2 speakers cannot reproduce width, meaning the apparent source width, and that has to do more with the sort of spatial quality of the space that you're in when we talk about width. Depth. So, you know, people talk about depth with 2-channel speakers. They talk about how the image sounds like it's happening at, you know, behind the speakers versus in front. There's always a little bit of layering, but it's never the same as it would be with surround sound, where the depth literally can extend from behind the speakers towards the front room of the wall, for instance, all the way back to behind you. And with Atmos, over your head as well. So 2-channel certainly cannot do that. And then there's a spatial envelopment aspect of the listening experience, and of reverb for that matter, which comes from the fact that the reflections off of the walls are what are critical to telling us what kind of room we're in, how big the room is, what the acoustic qualities of that room are like. And two speakers, just, they can tell you what that kind of sounds like, but they can't tell you what it's like to be in that room. But 5 speakers or 7 speakers or 32 speakers can tell you that. And that's why we want to add that. So as I mentioned, 2 speakers are not enough to accurately reproduce everything that's in the music, but multiple discrete loudspeakers placed correctly in a sort of hemispherical space around you are capable of doing that. And so now, one thing that I want to mention, generally 5 speakers are enough. We said that in the last video, and people kind of freaked out about that, you know, suggesting that we didn't know what we were talking about. This actually came from research that Floyd Toole puts in his book, which is why we recommend the book. There's 2 key studies that really kind of fell into this, where they tested this idea. There's been some tests since then. There's also been proprietary testing that's been done by manufacturers that develop the codecs that they do not publish, but have talked about. In general, 5 speakers get you most of the same enjoyment level that you get from 12 in the base channels, so those around you. That doesn't mean we're against overhead speakers, what you get with like Atmos and DTSX and things like that. And so, yes, there's certainly improvement there. And our recommendation for this, the reason why we're saying, given that most of the enjoyment comes from just those 5 base speakers plus 2 or 4 above, is that I think we agree, Gene, that we would rather see people spend that same amount of money on better speakers than we would like to see them spend on more speakers. And I think that was the key point we were trying to make back then.
Yeah, less is more in many cases. If you don't do it right and you just buy a bunch of cheap small speakers and put them all around the room and don't have good placement, you're wasting your time.
And now adding more speakers doesn't make it worse if the speakers are of good quality.
Right.
The other thing that I just want to mention is that it's kind of called like our resolution, our ability to detect changes in movement in the panning of what's called the azimuth. That's this kind of direction in front of us, goes all around us in this area. Our ability to detect that, the resolution for it is very high in front of our head. This makes sense from an adaptive standpoint. It's very poor behind us. It's also very poor over our heads. And that's one of the reasons why we can get away with less speakers for surround components than we actually need in front of us.
Gotcha.
So that, that's the key presentation here. That was, we really just want to talk about, surround music is something that we promote. We think it's a good thing, but, we were really hoping to see it come out of these streaming services, and we didn't get it. We ended up getting something for headphones and a little cheap speaker, and that's it.
Yeah, it was kind of a whimpering press release, and and I knew by looking at the vagueness of it that it was not as big as a deal as the industry was trying to make it out to be. And we waited. I mean, we literally waited a month or so to make this video to really check our facts, and nothing new has come of it. CES just passed. There was no announcements of streaming multi-channel music like we were hoping there was going to be. So as it stands right now, if you want multi-channel music, you have to, in your home theater, you really have to go to the disc.
Yeah. And I think there's some questions here. We might want to answer a couple of them. So one person is saying, what's the best way to experience multi-channel surround music right now? I assume you would mean in your home theater. And the answer is yes, those discs are great. The Blu-ray discs that have it. There's lots of surround concert discs that are available, but there's also files you can download online. Some of them for free if you just want to try it out. You don't want to spend $30 or $40 on these discs, for instance, because they can get pretty expensive. You can actually go online and if you type in something like free surround music demo tracks or something like that, you'll find various websites where that type of stuff is published. I'm forgetting the name of some of these right now, but we could probably link a few of them as well. And so they offer it usually in FLAC, multi-channel PCM, as well as often the SACD, DSD, kind of like ISO files or DSD files. So if you have the ability to decode that. So if you do the FLAC multi-channel PCM, which most people's systems can support, then basically take like your laptop, plug it into your surround receiver with an HDMI cable, and then your receiver will decode essentially the surround from those files. You just need to be making sure that you're using a player on your computer that can handle that, which at this point, I think most of them can. There's probably people who watch this that are more with it than I am on exactly which pieces of software to use for this, but certainly, there's lots of free software that you can use. Like I think Winamp is actually come back around and is one of the ones I'm pretty sure you can use for that purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I've got like Dire Straits Brothers in Arms. I have that in 5.1 FLAC, and that'll stream through my Oppo player. It'll stream through any device that's on my network, pretty much.
Yeah. I've got a device that's why I can't remember the names of the software. I use my laptop mostly, but I have some devices that'll just play those correctly.
So this is an interesting comment real quick about Tidal. Someone noted they don't have a lot of Atmos or 360 audio content. What they really have is an immersive. Just is exactly what we found.
Yeah, there isn't a lot.
Sound a little cleaner because of the higher stream rate. Yeah, I think that's very true. So someone else is here. One thing we should probably talk more about in the future is games. I mean, games are of incredible sound, and we probably should be covering that a lot more. And the music in games is really getting good these days, for sure.
A lot goes into them. I'm not a big gamer, but actually I believe James is pretty into that and knows quite a bit about it in relationship to surround sound reproduction for those games. It's, you know, I think compared to like movies and music, games have the added advantage of needing that surround sound, those cues to help you know where you are and where other people you're playing with are.
Right. So I think that's it. I wanted you guys to realize that all this stuff you're reading about when it comes to streaming in Atmos or streaming in this new Sony 360, it's all right now for the headphones. It's all mobile. It seems like
Yeah.
everything targets mobile these days, and it's kind of a mixed blessing because you and I are home theater guys. We want to get this technology into home theater first, not mobile first. Because let's face it, most people on a phone don't really give a shit about the audio quality. I mean, they're doing it for convenience. They don't really. You're not going to find the Generation Y or Generation Z person sticking headphones on and saying, "Wow, did you hear that immersive effect on Billie Eilish or Lady Gaga?" It doesn't happen. So they're targeting the wrong crowd by going mobile, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So, guys, let me know how you're getting your 5.1 audio or above for music. Are you just buying the discs? Are you buying the Steve Wilson discs, Pink Floyd discs? How are you getting surround sound music into your home theater? Do you even care, or are you still listening to two channel, or are you up mixing your two channel with the Dolby Surround up mixer, which I do like. If you channel balance your levels properly and you turn the center spread feature on, so it doesn't collapse everything to the center channel, I really find that the Dolby Surround Up Mixer enhances my two-channel experience. I use it most of the time, except for when I'm spinning vinyl records. In that case, I keep everything analog. But generally speaking, most of my music listening is through the Dolby Surround Up Mixer, or I do discrete 5.1, and I upmix that to 7.1.4. So I'd like to hear what you guys are doing down below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I've been hearing rumors lately that YouTube has a weird algorithm that's randomly unsubscribing people from channels. So please make sure you're subscribed. If you're already subscribed, check it, make sure. Hit the bell notification so you get notices when we go live again. And don't forget about our Patreon at patreon.com/audioholics. There are a lot of benefits for being a Patreon member. You get the content there first. You get direct access to ask us questions. We put our slide presentations, everything we've kind of recapped here will be located there for Patreon members. And until next time, my friends, keep listening,